Today I want to talk to you a little bit about Machu Picchu in Peru. That is an amazing, amazing place. There's a structure of temples and buildings that was begun to be built in about the year 1450. It's an Inca structure from the Inca civilization, and it is high, high up in the Andes Mountains. Hello, I'm Babs, as we lean into wellness together to build a better life. It is great to be here again. There are many fascinating things about Machu Picchu, but one of the fascinating things is that it's terraced. So much of different regions of Peru are in mountainous areas that a lot of times they terrace the ground so that they can grow food. So the people terraced that, and they would put blocks of stone up against these terraced areas to fight off erosion. So one of the fascinating things about all the building structures about Machu Picchu is that some engineers believe that up to 60% of the structure is actually underground. Crushed up rock was put underground in order for the rain, which is copious, tons of rain. The rain goes down through the ground, and if you did not have lots of crushed rock deep into the underpinnings of the buildings, they would not last. Another interesting thing about Machu Picchu is there's lots of seismic activity in that area of Peru. So they have a lot of earthquakes. And if you look at these structures, the stone is on stone. The structures do not have any mortar in them. So this is interesting. So they would try to get the stones to fit as well as they could. And these were all brought by human beings, and they would drag the stones into these spaces and they would get them to fit as closely as they could. So imagine this, when there's seismic activity, or in other words, an earthquake, these stones they use the term dance. They would dance and then go back into their place. Because there was no mortar, it didn't cause that kind of a problem. The mortar actually was more destabilizing for an earthquake. Here are these structures in Machu Picchu, stone on stone, and they would dance in an earthquake and then go back down onto the structure. That kind of resilience is amazing, and we find so often other places where it wasn't stone on stone, where entire cities throughout the world have been decimated by earthquakes. Part of it was probably all of the crushed rock underneath, which allowed some of that dancing, and then some of it was the stone on stone. So it's a pretty fascinating place to be. I always think of that as an amazing metaphor for resilience that we have as people. Are we able to be stone on stone in our lives, to fit the parts of our lives together with integrity so that it matches up our thought processes, match our actions? That's difficult for us to do often. And even in our expressions of our emotions, sometimes we are not as authentic as we'd like to be. But when we are, when the earthquakes in our lives come, there becomes better ability to dance in the great difficulty, and then when things settle, we're able to go back to where we need to be without a complete decimation of our structure. So we know a lot about resilience, and it's been studied a great deal. One of the things we know about resilience is that a synonym for it is toughness. And that does not mean this kind of toughness, although maybe for some people it does. That might mask some other things, who knows? But it is a kind of ability to get up when you fall and to move on, to keep going. Maybe you're making a different pathway for yourself. Maybe you're going back to a pathway that you thought you couldn't do, but then you decided, yes, that is the path I'd like to do. But resilience is ability to get back up and move forward in your life. A story that I love is about Kenneth Rooks, who was a steeplechase runner, and he was running for the national championship. We learned later that he planned his race in advance, which I think many racers do, where they think about things that could happen, or maybe they think, I'm just going to keep going and stay in my own space and get there first. I don't know. I think everybody has their own thought process, but he had kind of a complex thought process of what I will do if this happens, what I will do if this happens, because the steeplechase is interesting in that you start in your own lane, and then the runners bunch up and they go over these wide hurdles, and sometimes they go over the hurdles into water. So he was in this 3,000 meter race, and once the runners bunch up, you can't necessarily see where the problem is or the hurdle. See where I'm going with this? So anyway, he comes up to it, he misses the hurdle, and he tumbles and he falls to the ground. and he rolls, and he is far behind the entire pack of runners. Well, he gets up, and in his mind, he had made a plan before the race of what he would do if he fell, because it does happen in these steeplechases. So he began to pick up his pace, as he knew he would have to do, and to pick off the runners in front of him. So he would pass runners. Finally, it was toward the end of the race, and he started to make up even more time on the hurdles or the jumps. And he came to a space where he was going over those hurdles, and at the very last one, he actually passed the man that was in front, and there was a lot of jockeying for position, but he passes the last one in front of him, and he goes on to win the race. And I think this is an incredible additional metaphor for resilience. He made a plan because he knew he would possibly fail. That is how our lives are. We fail. We make missteps. We have problems in our lives. This is a normal part of life. It is part of being human. We are going to have failures. In fact, I think they're critically important for growth. So try not to hate on those. Try to see them as an opportunity to keep moving. Maybe you don't win the race, but you get up and you finish. So this is an opportunity for us to apply that to our own lives. We may have very difficult things happen in our lives. We may have physical problems. We may have mental problems. We might have issues in our families or challenges at work. It's okay. Take a moment, take some deep breaths, and make a new plan. Or go back to an old plan that you think might still work for you. But try to be like the stones at Machu Picchu, where there's a lot of movement in an earthquake. Because we've put our lives together well, we're able to put it back together and have that stability despite the things that come our way. We can have that stability. We can have that toughness of Kenneth Rooks. Now, it is true that we are born with a certain genetic predisposition for resilience. People who are a little more naturally optimistic are a bit more resilient, but we can develop resilience by practicing it. There are many ways to practice this. One of the ways, interestingly, is to increase our capacity for being uncomfortable. Sometimes we don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to have to deal with sitting in discomfort. It is crucial for us to remember that being uncomfortable and developing the ability to sit in discomfort is an important part of being resilient. Now, that does not mean that we push ourselves to the edge and that we go over the edge. That's unhelpful. And that does not build resilience. That actually crushes us. We'll talk about that another time. But for now, we're talking about our everyday ability to sit in discomfort. And it is something that we need to be able to do. Cold plunges can help with that. Sitting in that for 3 minutes in very cold water here and then coming back out of it can help us feel that discomfort that actually then gives us a rise in our dopamine in a significant way and helps us feel better for a significant amount of time. Helps us sit in discomfort. So if you know you have a tendency to not be resilient, it's good to learn many tools to practice our resilience. It's been great to be with you, and I hope that you will remember to keep those stones of your life, that ability to dance, so build the foundations and the parts of your life so that when the earthquakes come, you can have some movement in there, mental flexibility, so that when it comes back down, you're still a stable structure. Also have a plan for when we fail or when we make a mistake. It's okay. We just need to be able to sit in some discomfort so that we can make wise decisions for the future. Again, it's great to be with you as we lean into wellness to build a better life. See you next time.